afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Masterclass episode. And we are honored to welcome Mr. Vivek Sonar, Head Material Cost Reduction for the Truck and Bus Division at Mahindra Rise, to today's MSME Masterclass. With over 38 years of experience in the automotive manufacturing sector, Mr. Sonar brings deep hands-on knowledge in new product development, process standardization, and cost-focused engineering. His extensive career covers the complete product life cycle, from concept and feasibility to production ramp-up and supplier collaboration. In his current role at Mahindra Rise, he leads material cost optimization efforts across commercial vehicle and bus product lines, ensuring products are not only functional and reliable but also financially viable. Mr. Sonar has played a pivotal role in aligning design and manufacturability, implementing stage gate development frameworks, and ensuring on-time within budget delivery. His practical experience in navigating real-world production challenges makes his perspective especially valuable for MSMEs seeking to scale product development while keeping costs under control. Today, he will share actionable insights and examples from his career to help MSMEs build better, more cost-effective products with long-term competitiveness in mind. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vivek Sonar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amrita, for a very nice introduction. And it's an honor and privilege to be part of this initiative. I would certainly try to do justice to the objective of this session, sharing my real life experiences, both in professional and personal lives, as much they fit into the objective of this session today. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, sir. So for attendees, I've already introduced the topic for today, which is cost-focused product development. And my first question to you, sir, is how should MSMEs prioritize features and eliminate unnecessary complexities in cost-sensitive product categories?
Good. So if you see as a basic level a product is generally defined by the basic function and what are all the other peripheral feature or unique value propositions are getting added into this. You take simple example of a mobile phone. What does a mobile phone should do? You should be able to give call, take call, SMS. Now because we are in a world of smartphone, it has to also support, making internet browsing and social medias and all other content, right? That is a basic function. Why would still we have a 5,000 rupees mobile to a 1.5 lakh rupees Apple mobile? Because of the features, because of other quality standards, right? Now, I'm sure there would be some product specific feature. There would be some product specific requirement which comes in an Apple phone versus a lower end, 10,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, mobile phone, right? Now here I would expect and I would request the MSME to look at what is core function, what is the core objective to be met, okay? And whether whatever features are getting added to it, are they really required by the end customer? Is he or she willing to pay that extra money just because that phone has a gold plating and the other phone doesn't have? Does it have any functional value? Because for making a phone gold plating, there is a cost. Now, does my customer is willing to pay X thousand rupees more because the phone has a gold plating? There may be, but how many are those? Who are your customer base? For an 148 crore country, India, you can understand in terms of the customer choices and preferences. And if you're a global company, then you're talking about serving 8.5, 9 billion people in the world. Now, how do we strike a balance between these two extremes? So it is better to understand the basic function and the product features as they get added. And some of the tools like Pareto analysis or Kano model, I think should help the MSME to differentiate between a must to have and a nice to have feature, right? And the nice to have feature and must to have feature both should have a cost associated with. So you can go with that analysis to their customer or to their OE and say, look, sir, for the basic, this is the cost. But if you want to add any gold plating, if you want to add this specific feature, this is the cost. And as long as the end customer is willing to give that cost to us, we can build as many features and as many, frills into the product. Right? And that's where, to my earlier, response to earlier question about shifting cost, focus from cost to value engineering, to the value, okay, to the the value methodology technique which I was mentioning, would help. Because I have often seen, as a normal human characteristics, people just get centered around and start overly worrying about managing cost. And my advice, based on my experience, is that small shift in the perspective actually opens a very wide possibilities in front of us. Moving from cost to value engineering, or managing value at a most frugal way, is what I would advise the MSME in this regard.
And now, sir, in your experience, can you tell our attendees what's the right time to run a cost-benefit analysis in the development of a product life cycle?
Okay, it is as good as asking how many times I have to breathe to live healthy life for 70 years or 60 years. And as many times, every time you miss a bit and you risk a life, right? It is as simple as that, Amrita, that every time is the right time. And the start point of this, as we discussed earlier, is the concept stage. At a very early stage, when the customer picks up a phone and talks to MSME, that, hey, I need a service, I have a job, can you help come and deliver this? That's the starting point. And that first engagement must focus as one of the delivery as cost. And from there, once you have the basic cost element brought in at the concept stage, till the final product matures and gets delivered to the customer, the cost benefit, what am I putting in, what am I getting out of it, has to be done at a regular interval. And as I was telling earlier in the stage gate question, there is the design stage, there is the concept stage, there is the prototype stage. The design per se for the product matures in these stages. And as the design matures, the cost must also go hand in hand with this. This is inside out approach. And outside in, as I was mentioning earlier, the raw material prices are changing. There are forex fluctuations happening. If you have any dependency on your overseas partner, then forex and other things will kick in, right? Logistic will kick in, right? So all those external factors, geopolitical situation, right? If you are, exporting part, which the ship has to travel through Suez Canal, and suddenly few months back or last year, we found that there is a ship which was stuck in the Suez Canal, and the entire world came to standstill for 17 days. All shipments were stuck. Now, do we have any that kind of a dependence? That MSME must start thinking at that point and must consider those at every stage. Usually, I have seen for a ground-up product development for an automotive, typically zero base, the product never exists. A new platform, a new product development. Typically, it takes 4 to 5 years, or for car industry, it could be 3 to 4 years. Now, 3 years is a fairly long time for any one reference point to stay stable or fix. It cannot. It changes. And therefore, to your question on what is the right time to run a cost-benefit analysis in the development cycle, at a regular interval, as many time, tied down to a specific delivery or specific stage gate, it is better done. But typically, my advice would be, irrespective of that, once in 3 months, irrespective of anything, you must stop and look back and ask those questions. And there is a beautiful term here in Sanskrit. It's called Sinhavalokan. Right? Sinha is lion, Avalokan is looking back. And it is written in the book by none other than Jim Corbett, who is the voice on the tiger and lion family of animals in the world. And through his life's research and life studies, life experiences, he has written, lion is the only animal in the jungle which, when traverses in his lifetime for close to about 400, 500 square kilometer area, at a regular interval, it stops, it looks back, it takes the stock of the situation, leave his mark, and then move forward. Why? It is, if it gets lost, he must be able to get it back. And this term, even though Jim Corbett explained much later now, it is there in our culture, in our history, in our the literature as Sihavalokan. And that is what I would advise the MSME to take those short interval break, look back, consolidate, and then chalk out the future plan. And therefore, running the cost-benefit analysis at a regular interval is a given. It's non-negotiable.
What a lovely example, sir. Thank you so much for sharing that. So my next question to you is on lean manufacturing or prototyping techniques. Can you share with our attendees what, according to you, are some of these lean manufacturing techniques that MSMEs can adopt to test feasibility without major investments?
Good question, Amrita. And I relate that to, again, my real life example. When the mother is cooking in the kitchen, okay, she has her own way of making sure that the whatever cuisine she is preparing for the guest coming in the evening for dinner, she has a way to assess whether that is the best dish she is preparing today. So she'll, if she is trying something new, she will make a small quantity, test it, make the kids and everyone around home test it, take their feedback, then make one more maybe larger portion before committing herself to prepare the full meal for the guest. It's the same concept there in the prototyping. The concept of prototyping has come derived from, I think, the same experience of the mother cooking in the home, right? And what does it mean? It means whatever design we are talking, as long as the design is in a virtual form, you have no ability to physically feel, touch, smell, use all your five senses and experience that product, how it looks in the physical form, in the real world, how it looks, how it smells, right? So before jumping into making long-term tooling commitments, which are capital incentive. For example, if I tell you the car bonnet, you would have seen a mid-size car. The car bonnet is a full of metal, sheet metal part. A tool for making that car bonnet would be costing something 2 to 3 crore rupees. Now, if I don't assess whether it is the final intended design, which is going to be the final production, if I invest those 2-3 crore, and if there are any changes to be done later on, which my tool doesn't give me the flexibility, that entire 2-3 crore investment stands as waste. And therefore, having multiple stages of prototyping is a wise way of reaching the final intended destination of mass production, okay, in a most frugal way. So there are various concepts there, something called as rapid prototyping. 3D printing, you would have heard. It's very commonly known, popular concept nowadays. People have started building homes using 3D printing, right? People have started building running engine with 3D rapid prototyping, right? Or 3D printing, they call it, right? So that, and it's very low cost compared to the final tool cost, which probably you will have to invest at a later point in time. There is something low fidelity prototyping. For example, can I use inexpensive material as foam or a cardboard to make an early stage concept, just to see in physical form how it looks. Does it look as good, as ugly as it is seen on the computer when it comes in the physical form? These are all physical prototyping tools. Even if the product is too complex, if there are new technologies getting involved, if there is a new product is getting conceived and delivered to the customer, then there are other virtual prototyping tools. For example, digital twins, right? Or digital mock-ups, we call it. Right?
Yeah.
Those tools which are done, which are available and which can be experienced on a computer. Now imagine your flexibility to make changes if you don't like, if it doesn't serve the final purpose and you want to change. Your ability to make those changes is far better and less expensive in a virtual form than in a physical form. So to put things in order, I think MSME, I would request to use as much possible, okay, digital twins or some AI-based solutions, okay, before getting into physical prototyping. Once a sufficient confidence is generated using those virtual tools, then go slowly to the low fidelity prototype like alternate material, foam, cardboard I mentioned, then go to rapid prototype, and then go to the final intended tooling in a staged manner, because that's how the design also matures. That is what I would recommend.
So can MSMEs adopt frugal innovation principles without cutting corners of performance or reliability?
So is this the question? Can they adopt? I mean, Who stops them? Frugal innovation and frugal engineering, for that matter, is not patented by any country, any organization, any specific section of the society. It's the way of life. Okay? COVID has taught very strong lessons, very, very hard lessons to all of us. What we used to believe before COVID, the entire dimension to life had changed during COVID, right? We all have gone from physical to virtual and still run the show, still run the businesses, still run the countries, still run our home, right? So, frugality. By the way, when it comes to India, frugality is hallmark of India. There are so many grassroots level innovation, or what the world calls as Indian jugaad, which are available, which are seen around us, which we see in day-to-day life, right? In other way around, frugal innovation or frugal engineering approach saves you from unwarranted cutting corners, degrading the value, and also negatively impacting the performance and reliability of the product. And it's not frugal engineering, not just in design, but in every aspect of product building to serving customer. Frugality in every spending, whether it is time, resource, money, or even mind. Right? God has given us 24 hours. God has given a small brain. Where am I deploying my mind? Where am I deploying my heart? Am I using it for the core things, or am I wasting it on the frivolous things? So frugality is in our DNA, and frugal innovation must be practiced by everybody, whether it is a personal life or a professional life. And that frugality, as I was earlier explaining, if you keep the value in the center, if you keep the basic objective in the center, and build frugal, innovative ways of delivering that, okay, there is no question of cutting corners. There is no question of degrading the performance or reliability. And my humble submission to MSMEs on this note is, look at Amazon, one of the best examples for frugality. And if you go and Google and search, you will find Jeff Bezos is the owner of Amazon. He says, and he champions the frugality as a core principle of driving innovation and efficiency in Amazon. His philosophy is, frugality breeds resourcefulness and invention. Focus on customer value and customer experience. Frugality also helps you to challenge the status quo. Right? We should seldom get into a trap that this is the way it has been done. That's how my forefathers had done. Okay? We often get into the discussion, and I find some of the old colleagues, they say, "Arey, ye dhoop mein safed nahi hua hai." Fine, that was the experience. I respect that. But is that the way the world should move? No. Things change around us. We need to find out different ways of meeting the same object. And that's where the frugal examples or frugality will help all the SMEs.
So my next question to you is on digital tools. Can you tell us how do digital tools, example could be CAD, support cost-focused engineering decisions?
Most certainly, these are very proven techniques again available and they are, pretty much widely available in the industry today. Computer-based or virtual-based digital tools which are available. As I was explaining for prototyping example, there are digital twins, right? Or there are computer-aided design, CAD we call it, or CAE, computer-aided engineering. These softwares, and there are many in the industry today available, which can be used for optimizing the design, assessing the design, validating the design for example, if I talk of sheet metal, performing stress and thermal and fluid flow analysis. Without getting into physical, prototyping, I can evaluate the design for all these parameters in a virtual environment. Okay. That plug and play, must be utilized fully till we develop a very 360-degree wholesome view that the design will survive, and it will survive not just for one use, but a lifetime use. Not just one piece, but the millions of pieces I am expected to make and serve my larger customer out. Now, to reach that one prototype confidence or one virtual confidence, 2 millions of parts are going to be delivered over a period of life. Plus, that part when it goes to the hands of customer, if it is a serviceable part, then I have to also consider the serviceability requirement, the spare part requirement, so that the machine runs for its lifetime. Now, the same machine which is delivered brand new on day 0, and if the life of the machine is 10 years, I am dead sure that all the parts which are originally equipped in the machine, they will live, or they will be designed for 10 years of life. Then the machine cost would skyrocket. So you will have to build in the part which are separately serviceable and not separately serviceable. For example, you take a car example you are having. Is tire separately serviceable item or not serviceable item? It's a serviceable item. You have to service it. You have to replace it when it is worn out or it is damaged. But you don't expect the car body to be separately serviceable. It is in a way. You will do painting, denting, repairing and all that. But you can't change the body every 2 years just because you can't service it, right? So serviceability aspect also has to be built in. And all this is earlier the better, at a concept stage, at the pre-design stage, done by using digital tools. It helps the MSME and also the OEs to have a prudency into the design, into the cost.
So can you explain the impact of standardizing parts or processes on long-term cost and scalability to our attendees?
I think we tried to address this in other way when we were talking about the modularity. Standardization of parts and processes is one way to optimize the effort going in, not just for cost, but also for time, resources, and everything. I was talking about that cross-member example, keeping the center section same, changing the end connections, making those end connection as variable, keeping the center section as a fixed input, right? Standardization is very, very powerful tool in containing the cost, in optimizing the cost, because it insulates the user from the volatility and unpredictability of the markets around special purpose material, around special purpose machine resources. Thereby, it assures them of long-term sustainability. And scalability also depends or is influenced largely by whether the part is standardized or non-standardized. And if it is non-standardized, which means if it is only made for you, somebody will have to put extra effort, specified effort, special effort to make that part only for you. Industry doesn't use. And there is no free lunch. So everything will come boiled down into cost. So using standardization is a given. But the flip side is, if you make standardization is the only way of making the product, then where is the differentiation? Where can an Apple phone and a Samsung phone will differ from each other, right? Where from MRF tire versus Apollo tire will differ from. So a balance between standardization and what we call is uniqueness or unique selling proposition, USP. How do you strike a balance between standardization? And that is where the early supplier involved into our concept stage or early design phases will help MSME to leverage this standardization initiative or standardization as a tool to contain the cost. And not just one-time cost, but it's again the entire life cycle cost, right? Including the supply chain, complexities involved into this.
Got it. So now tell our attendees, what are the most cost-effective ways to handle change requests from clients without losing cost control?
See, again, in my limited experience, I have seen the MSME not getting regularly involved into the design process, into the design reviews. Okay, they hesitate bringing their own experiences, their own knowledge into the discussions. That fear, that hesitation is primarily coming from maybe I am so small a person, that organization is very big. How can I go and tell them? If they are bigger, then they must be wiser than me. They must be more knowledgeable. So why have that kind of a mindset? Why don't I have those kind of preconceived notions? As I was telling earlier, each one of us bring a certain set of value onto the table. And we must focus on the value rather than who is giving that example. One example which comes to my mind, and again, it is widely available on the internet, true or false, I don't know, but I have read it many times and I've used it many times. So there is this biscuit manufacturing company who is producing biscuits. So the biscuits are made, then they are wrapped, they are packaged, and the packets are getting, finally delivered to the dispatch sections. And they started getting complaint that some of the packets which they delivered, they were actually empty packets. There were no biscuits in that. And there was a big customer, dissatisfaction on this. So the company started worrying. We have put all automated lines. We have put all automated control, very less manual intervention. Still, how come empty packets are going? So they call all the experts around and say, help us in this. And while the experts were breaking their head looking at each machine, at what stage the biscuits are supposed to be wrapped into the wrapper, why it is not feeding. So they were breaking head and trying to add control and all this. One production person who is actually a helper there on the line, who is helping the production team, he came and said, sir, rather than why we are wasting our energy in putting so many controls there, just put a fan at the end of the line where the wrapped biscuit packets are taken on the conveyor to the bin where they are getting shipped. You put an industrial fan, all the empty packets will blow off. Our intention is the empty packets should not go in the hands of customer. Blow them off. Now look at the frugal suggestion, right? Now whether right or wrong, the example here tells suggestions can come from any corner. Experiences can come from any corner. So my humble submission again to the MSME here is, changes will happen. Changes are bound to happen in the design. No design, no product is generated overnight. It evolves over a period of time. And as we all get wiser with our experiences, so that the design gets wiser with its own experiences. It goes through virtual validation, changes have to be made. It goes through small prototyping, changes have to be made. And when you're talking of a product of mass scale level, at a design stage, you can evaluate the product only for a given tolerances, given specification. Imagine 1 million parts to be made. Each part will not be the same dimension. There will be dimensional small differences. Within the given scheme, all of them have to fit together, still deliver the value. Now it becomes a little complex game, right? So my suggestion to the MSMEs is don't get too overly bogged down that why changes are coming. I have seen often big fights, big arguments, tearing of paper, emotions flying through the windows, that how come this change? I will not accept this. We never discuss about this. Rather than getting emotionally over worried, just ask why the change? What has caused the change? Oh, the part failed in the hands of customer. A part failed in the internal testing. Oh, this is what the problem has come. Okay. Imagine an industrial product which is designed in India, which has to serve at a minus 50 degree in Kashmir and plus 50 degree in Rajasthan. And when I'm talking about sheet metal, extreme cold condition can make the sheet metal most brittle, and it can break with the smallest of force, as against what it will work in an extremely hot condition in Rajasthan. So when you have to deal with such a wide variety of the real world practices or real world conditions, we must first say changes will happen. Question is, to your first question, are we proactively getting engaged to understand the entire change mechanism, or are we getting more reactive to handling those changes? Being proactive, being vigilant, being involved in the process would help deal with those changes in a more structured manner than anxiety building and anxiety, taking the center stage. Things will still go out of hand, right? COVID will still happen. By the way, my study during COVID time surprised me that there are handful countries who manage the COVID very effectively and efficiently, as against the countries, big countries like US and European countries. They suffered. They went through a very bad phase managing the COVID. And that study which tells me that the countries which managed it well, they were more proactive. They were open to look at the historical situation or historical experiences. My first experience of dealing with that kind of a global emergency was in my early childhood, when that time the first space station, Skylab, today it is International Space Station. That time it was a Skylab, Russian made. It disintegrated in the space. And the news was those big pieces are going to fall anywhere in the world and probably do a mass destruction. That was a global pandemic sort of or global emergency situation. So tsunami has happened, COVID has happened. These situations have come in the past. So those countries which have dealt with these kind of situations, they were more proactive and they're willing to look at the historical experiences. My submission to MSME is that if you are able to deal with the changes in this with this approach, I think you should be still able to manage those changes without losing cost control.
Now, sir, tell us, in your view, how can MSME shift from a reactive to proactive cost planning in NPD?
We just spoke about it, right? Same things apply here too. Question is how we prepare to be proactive than reactive. What are all the changes I need to bring in me as an MSME owner or a proprietor, in my team, my organization, is a matter of reflection for all the leaders. And MSMEs are no different to that. Okay, so having an early stage engagement with customers, having a holistic view of the entire product life cycle dynamics and various elements of product life cycle, keeping a close eye on the external environment and understanding which changes in the external environment will influence my cost. And appropriate consideration to be given to all these things, right from during the quote submission in the very early stage to the final sign off on the cost, which happened at a much later stage and closer to the production. So, and leveraging your own learning in that entire process also sets you apart, away from all the masses. Okay, be open-minded. Don't hesitate to put your point of view, and also invite suggestions from customer, peer groups, and employees, and also the industry forums. Participation in industry forums will help them widen their perspective. You can always use some predictive models, develop cost curve from historical data. Those all scientific tools are available. Sometimes the answer lies in the fundamentals. And I remember fondly one of my engineering professors in my engineering college, who is no more now, but he used to always tell us when we were studying our engineering, and his catchphrase was, clear rahega funda to nahi padega danda. So if you keep your fundamentals close to your heart, if you keep your fundamentals in front of you when you are dealing with decisions in the life, you will seldom get bitten by yourself or by the world. So my advice to the MSMEs is, try to be more proactive by look within, first for yourself, for your team, for your organization, then, with your customer, with your client, with your other, network. And training in such manner would be advisable, to the team on how to deal with the changes, how to be proactive than react.
So my last question.
And the design and value methodology or the value engineering techniques, which my framework I mentioned, would help them, learn these techniques. Yes.
So my last question to you is, what KPIs should MSMEs track to evaluate whether a product is being developed cost effectively or not?
KPIs, key process indicators, what you are saying, okay, which will tell them whether the product is being developed cost effectively or within the affordability point. Okay. So some of the points which I have already discussed about having a cost sheet, for example, as simple as that. The other would be like material utilization list. What kind of material is being used and how efficiently the material is used. For castings and forgings, which are part of the metal uses in the vehicle or in other forms of industrial designs, there is a concept called as yield. So how much is input material going versus what is the final product? Just to give you an example, a simple suspension bracket in the car, which is made up of casting, we find the industry is struggling with an yield rate of about 70%. What does it mean? If my final part weight is 70 gram or 70 kg, the input weight is 100 gram or 100 kg, which means the 30 kg or 30 gram is a waste. And that waste is a cost, wasted, cost drain, right? Now, how do I keep an eye on the material utilization rate? How do I improve the yield is one in that context. Cycle time. Every part, when it is manufactured, it has a cycle time. From the first entry of feeding to the finished product available at the end of the line. How do I improve the cycle time? How do I improve the operational efficiencies? How do I improve the resource efficiencies? How do I improve the product power consumption? How do I improve the other consumable consumptions, whether it is power, water, oil, or anything like that? Now, keeping an eye on that, because ultimately somebody will have to pay the cost. And in the world today, mostly the MSMEs have to bear the cost. And at the end of the day, if the MSME have to be profitable, have to be sustainable, they will have to invest in themselves to manage their operations, including their resources, in the most efficient way, so that in the process, they save some cost for themselves. They may not pass on that saving to the customer. They may not quote. They may quote differently to the OE, but their effort to save the cost by improving their operational efficiency is the way I think they should be evaluate whether the product is being developed cost efficiently or not. I hope I have answered that. And there are other techniques, Amruta, like overall equipment efficiency, OEE it is called, or even there are certain financial terminologies as net project value, NPV, IRR, internal rate of return. There is something called as cost benefit ratio, something called as payback period. These are all the financial terms by which way they can keep an eye on whether the cost is under control or at some point of time it is getting out in hand. And an early warning here through these KPIs, through this close monitoring, would help them save the damage, much earlier in the game, which again brings in the point of proactivity versus reactivity.
With that, we've come to the end of today's episode. So thank you so much for sharing your detailed insights on such a critical and important topic for our MSMEs, which is cost-focused product development. I am 100% sure that with your almost 4 decades of experience in this field, they will gain a lot of insights and intel into this particular subject. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Amruta. I really appreciate for that opportunity and sharing my own experiences with the MSME. Touch wood, I'm sure they will find some value into this entire discussion, which will help them do better, be better, and be efficient. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you so much once again, sir. For our attendees who are online, if you'd like to view the current episode, if you've missed any part of the current episode, please go on YouTube, type GSW1 MSME, and you will find all our episodes uploaded there. Thank you once again, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.